The next agenda item is to provide an update on the city sidewalk repair replacement program, Green Meadows and Green Meadows West. Matt?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of walk through where we're at in our current segment one of our sidewalk program, and then we'll transition into segment two. But September 1st, so last Friday was the deadline to have your sidewalk repairs completed. So city staff this week will go out, start doing inspections or reviewing to make sure that we've got an accurate count on those that we're not. We'll provide that to folks so that they can put a plan set together. They've already started some of that with the details. With that, we plan to have final plans at the end of September, kind of order construction that first meeting of October. We're looking to try and get maybe some of the sidewalk program completed or some of those repairs, replacements completed yet this year, or at least provide the contractor the opportunity to. And then we would award that project at the second meeting in October, so that construction could begin as early as late October. And then the completion date would be May 31st of 2024 to have those completed by. We did run into a small issue in our research on Greendale Road. So just want to talk about that real briefly. In reviewing the documents, there's about 8 parcels along Greendale Road. 3 of them have sidewalks. There are some gaps along Greendale on would be the east side of the road. The west side does have continuous sidewalk. 2 of those had deferments, so we could go through and order construction of those. One is a city parcel where we used to have an old lift station, so we would absorb that cost. There are, that leaves about 1 or 2 that we would need to go out and talk about that weren't deferred, or we can't find that yet. We're still researching that that sidewalk wasn't deferred. And Child Serve had said that they were going to put theirs in. So leaves, like I said, 1 or 2 properties. We plan to go out and talk with them, see where they're at in the process. Part of that is if we have to go through an assessment process, it's lengthier than just the assessment for repairs or replacement. And then we've got to be kind of mindful of cost if we have to go through that assessment process, because it may cost more than actually just constructing the sidewalks. So we'll do a little bit more research. There's another option where if we wanted to, we could combine that, or we could bring those into segment 2 if we get to the point where we need to move forward and provide opportunity for construction of some of those sidewalks this year. So I'll follow up, plan to talk a little bit at the Public Works Ad Hoc Committee on some about the research that we found and which parcels those may be. So any questions on segment A?
Is Greendale Road the one that's behind Hy-Vee?
Correct. Yep. So even if we did wait and brought that into segment 2, it wouldn't really be that large of an issue. I mean, there's gaps there today. So if we brought that into segment 2, it just delays.
Can you just kind of guess as to what the rate of compliance was with doing the repair work?
It was fairly good, because after word got out, there were a couple of 2 or 3 contractors that started to go through the neighborhood and cut some pretty good deals. I think they were, I heard anywhere from maybe $300 to $400 a panel that they were going through and doing. And the neighbor would get theirs replaced, and they were talking about, okay, well, who did you use? So I say that we had probably a pretty good rate of those that said they were going to do it. So we just got to go back and verify those that opted into the city, that they didn't. We did have a few calls where they wanted to switch up and have this contractor do it after their neighbor got something fixed. So it seemed like it went fairly well, because you did have contractors kind of moving through the neighborhood doing that.
I'm sure there's lessons learned, and I won't ask you tonight to share those maybe at the Public Works Committee, but I'm sure that as we implemented the program for the first time, there are things that we learned from that when we move into Green Meadows West, we can
we did
benefit from that knowledge.
Yeah, certainly. Our first time out, there were a few hiccups or quirks that we will have to work out in the next one. The next one are going to be a little bit different because we're actually doing ramps and sidewalks in one project instead of separate projects.
Hey, Matt, before you move on, I do think the issue of deferments or areas that don't have sidewalks is a policy area that needs to get some discussion, whether at the Public Works Committee or beyond, because part of it, as I recall, when our discussion of the sidewalk program was to identify and fill in gaps where sidewalk didn't exist. So if we have an area, let's say you have a section where sidewalk has been deferred, so they got a deferral, and then their next door neighbor doesn't have a deferral. And so we're going to tell the person who doesn't have the deferral, they have to put a sidewalk in, but we're going to continue to honor the deferral. I think that creates some unfairness. And so I think we need to think through the policy. To me, I think we need to review and consider whether those deferrals should be, if at this point there is no reason, the reason for the initial deferral no longer exists, whether we should be taking away the deferral and saying, so that neighbor 1, 2, 3, and 4 all have to put sidewalks in and not favor the person who had a deferral. So I think that's a discussion that needs to occur as part of this process as well. Because as I recall, when we talked about the sidewalk program, it isn't just about maintenance of existing sidewalk, it's also filling in the gaps. Now, maybe people have different perspectives on that, but to me, I think that needs to be a part of it too.
Yeah, I think actually in the sidewalk policy that we did adopt, it does talk about filling in those gaps where they're identified. So, and this was one of those. It just seems that a few of those were deferred and some of them were talked about in a staff report, but we can't find any reference to where it was actually deferred. So some of them, I think, even showed it on the site plan with sidewalk. And then when it was constructed, the sidewalk wasn't put in.
But our expectation and the communication to them was, it's time to put those sidewalks in.
Yeah, they all received letters about putting sidewalk in.
As part of the sidewalk program.
As a part of the
now, or-
sidewalk program, they did get
Okay.
notice. to put Sidewalks in. It's just if they want us to do that, and this is where we'll have to have the conversation, is that assessment process is lengthier and more expensive
Okay,
than just a repair or replace and assessing those costs.
okay, great.
All right, I got a couple of minutes. Let me get to, so that's segment 1. Just want to talk briefly about segment 2, which is Green Meadows West neighborhood. So in segment 2, we've already had the engineer out. He's performed work, survey work on the ramps. There's a draft schedule. I can tell you the one thing on the draft schedule that we've confirmed is the public information meeting number 1, September 27th. We'll be sending notices out on that no later than September 12th. And we're gonna break that neighborhood. It's a large neighborhood. We're gonna break it into 2, just like we did Green Meadows. We're gonna kind of have a back-to-back meeting. We're gonna go at 5:30 and then again at 6:15 to have those discussions. Really, it's just to let them know that we're gonna be out there inspecting sidewalks. If you see a paint mark on your sidewalk, this is what it's in reference to. We'll also go through the deficiencies, what we're looking for, so that they know what's out there and what those expectations are. Because what we plan to do is actually go out and then start doing that inspection in October and November towards the end of the season and kind of get an early start on this. Because we do have the ramps, it's not just the sidewalks. So we'll go out, we'll do that. And that really, and then give that information to the engineer, and that really completes work for this year. We'll let the engineer kind of have some time to design those ramps and get kind of a basic number for the number of sidewalks or panels that we've got. But then really looking at kind of a bidding timeline in 2024, we'd have another property owner meeting just to kind of refresh everything on March 26th. The deficiency notification letter is actually the wrong date. That actually probably should be the 28th. It would go out after our second meeting, basically notifying that we just had the meeting and say, this is what's been found. These are the deficiencies, kind of as a reminder, because it'll sometime will pass 6 months or so. And then we will basically send that deficiency letter out. That'll have the information that they can either opt in or that they need to have it repaired. Look to have that back by the end of April. And then essentially give them until the end of July to make those repairs. And then we would go back out in August and do the re-inspect to verify what all still needs to be constructed. And then we would push that out for construction or get it bid out during September, October timeframe, with construction beginning in October of 2024. And then having it substantially complete, ramps, all the sidewalk portions by September 1 of 2025. So, which is kind of right on schedule with where we were supposed to be all along. So seems a little drawn out, but segment 2 does have both ramps and sidewalks in it. That's it.
Matt, the meeting on the 27th, is that here?
That'll be here at City Hall, and we'll get notice out to the council. I just kind of wanted to discuss it tonight. And
Any questions for Matt on that? Does that complete your presentation? Okay. Very good. Well, you hit it right on time. Thank you, Matt. Let's go ahead and adjourn the city council work session. And is it okay if we just roll right